Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Dan Hiscock, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer of the Air Force, Warrant Officer Ralph Clifton. Today we commemorate the 102nd anniversary of the formation of the Royal Australian Air Force. Military aviation was pioneered during the First World War, with aircraft operated by armies and navies. By the late stages of the war, however, aerial fighting was recognised as a distinct form of warfare. While Great Britain combined with the Royal Naval Air Service and the Royal Flying Corps to form the Royal Air Force in 1918, the four squadrons of the Australian Flying Corps remained part of the Australian Imperial Force. Following the disbandment of the AFC at the end of 1919, the Australian Air Corps was created on the 1st of January 1920. Then on the 31st of March 1921, the Australian Air Corps was separated from the Army to form the Australian Air Force. A few months later, in August, the new force would be given royal assent, becoming the Royal Australian Air Force. Over the past 102 years, the RAF has established a proud record of service encompassing the Second World War, the Korean War and the Vietnam War, as well as more recent involvement in East Timor, the Solomon Islands and the Middle East. Thousands of Australians have served in the RAF, operating in conjunction with other air forces across the globe. Inevitably, some have fallen. Today we pay our respects to the men and women commemorated here on the Roll of Honour and to the survivors who have returned home. This evening we are honoured to acknowledge Her Excellency Miss Alicia Moral Revilla, Ambassador of Spain to Australia, and the accompanying delegation. We also welcome Chief of Air Force Air Marshal Robert Chipman and Mrs. Elise Chipman and their accompanying delegation. We warmly welcome Group Captain Alan George, retired, representing the Air Force Association. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Service Clubs Association. We warmly welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will dismount the catafalque party from the tomb of the Australian soldier.
Command party, attention! Command party, quick march! Catafalque party, present arms.
If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Catapult Party, attention! Catapult Party, present arms!
Australians, oh let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Catapult Party, shoulder arms! Catapult Party, order arms!
If you wish to and you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read just one of the stories behind those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Flying Officer Douglas Anderson Cumming. Douglas Cumming was born in the town of Darlington in the Western District of Victoria on the 9th of December 1918. The son of Gerald and Mary Cumming, he was taught by a governess before boarding at Geelong College. There he was noted as one of the college's foremost rowers, as well as being awarded the Gillespie Scripture Prize in 1931 and 1932, and the Music Prize in 1932. After leaving college, Cumming took up sheep breeding with his father at the property Jalalabad in Darlington, and was esteemed by good judges as one of the most promising younger sheepmen. Cummings came from a family with a tradition of military service. His family expressed their pride in his serving cousins, Captain Morfitt, MC, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Robertson, CBE, OBE, MC. There are also his uncles, Major General Buchanan, CB, CMG, DSO, who served in the First World War, and Colonel Robertson, CBE, who served during the Boer War. At the outbreak of the Second World War, Cumming was a member of his local light horse militia unit, but Cummings had other ambitions, and on the 6th of December 1941, he enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force. He began training as a pilot, and then on the 7th of September 1942, he embarked at Melbourne bound for overseas service. As part of the Empire training scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, air gunners, and flight engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. Arriving in Canada in early October, Cumming continued training, attending Service Flight Training School at Almere, Ontario, and earning his wings before embarking for the United Kingdom in March 1943. Arriving in England in April, he spent 6 months as a pilot training centre, then joined an operational training unit at Abu Sair, northeast of Cairo. In April 1944, Cumming was allocated to number 450 Squadron RAAF, the first Australian squadron to be established for service with the British military under the Empire training scheme. 450 were flying Curtiss P-40 Kitty Hawk fighters based at Catella Airfield on Italy's Adriatic eastern coast near San Salvo. On the 29th of May, Cumming met his death on air operations with number 450 Squadron, which was now flying out of San Angelo Airfield on Italy's west coast near Naples. His squadron leader wrote to Cummings' parents to explain what happened that day. Andy, as he was affectionately known to all members of the squadron, was one of a formation of 6 who took off to dive bomb and strafe an enemy concentration of motor transport in the Guasino area, Italy. While they were strafing, an enemy machine gun opened up, and while another pilot silenced it quickly, Andy was heard to call on his wireless and say he'd been hit. The formation leader told him to head for home and detailed another aircraft to go with him. After travelling only a short distance, the other aircraft saw smoke and flame coming from the engine of Andy's aircraft. He called to him to parachute out, but Andy went into a dive, apparently to try and put out the flames, and then pulled up. The flames did go out, but smoke was still streaming from the aircraft, which then went into a shallow dive and crashed. Andy was not seen to leave the aircraft. The letter noted that the squadron had been taken with the way that Andy idolised his father. He was often heard to be telling somebody of his dad and home. Andy Cummings' remains were buried in Morollo Civil Cemetery. After the end of the war, they were reinterred in Casino War Cemetery, where they lie today under the inscription, "In loving memory of my son, who died a noble death, Dad." Andy Cumming was 25 years old. His name is listed on the honour roll on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flying Officer Douglas Anderson Cumming, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Catapult party! Shoulder! Arms!
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, that we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Catapult party! Present! Arms! Catapult party! Shoulder! Arms!
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Catapult party! Inwards! Turn! Catapult party! Quick! March!
We'll leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.